Feeling stuck? Yearning for more? You're in the right place. This is Midlife Moxie with Nicole, where you're going to get a weekly dose of courage, clarity, and maybe a little bit of chaos as we navigate our best chapter yet, midlife.
Welcome back to Midlife Moxie with Nicole Haight. I am your host, Nicole. So today we're going to talk about something that might make you squirm. We're going to talk about creativity. Now, before you begin your own thoughts with, oh, but Nicole, I'm not creative, or I'm not artistic, I want you to stop right there. Because that voice is not your voice. That's the good girl conditioning speaking, and we are about to expose it for the lie that it is. We are going to talk today about dormant creativity, and I promise you this isn't just speaking to artists. This is for every woman who has felt a creative hunger gnawing at her soul and somehow convinced herself that it was selfish to feed it. Let me explain something to you that actually might shock you. Midlife isn't about rediscovering creativity, it's recovering it. You're digging through the layers of you should be practical, or art doesn't pay the bills, or the simple thought of who do you think you are, to find your own creative edge that got buried through the years when you were just being good. The typical creativity narrative goes a little something like this. Find your passion or discover your artistic side. But that is creativity from a young woman's perspective. And I feel midlife creativity is different. It's the dig. It's about remembering who you were before you learned to be what everyone else needed. The world sells creativity as either a monetizable side hustle or the perfect online Instagram-worthy craft or a productive hobby that serves others. But for women in midlife, I think creativity is something entirely different. It's giving yourself permission with your own time to be selfish. It's permission to make things that serve no one but you. It's permission to be terrible at something and do it anyways. It's permission to be angry and rage paint or grief write or dance with your anger. This isn't about becoming good enough to show anyone what you create, but it is about becoming dangerous enough to choose yourself. Think of it as an exit strategy and not an escape that society wants you to think of as creativity being a stress relief from real life. What if creativity wasn't your escape from reality, but a safe exit from the lives that you've led that were never yours to begin with? I feel when you're creating authentically, you're not escaping reality. You are creating a new reality that honors who you are. It's dangerous and it's not decorative because society has led women to believe that creativity comes from decorating the home or serving the family. And this creativity stays contained and appropriate. And frankly, it doesn't challenge anything. But I find that midlife creativity is an entirely different beast. This tells us inconvenient truths. It honors rage that no one wants to hear. It creates things that make people sometimes feel uncomfortable and challenges systems that have kept you small. This isn't about becoming an artist, but becoming dangerous to anything that requires you to stay small, silent, and creatively starved. Let me tell you a story about my own sacred exit from my creative starvation, because I feel that it perfectly illustrates how we can convince ourselves that shrinking our gifts is somehow virtuous. Music was my first language. Growing up, you'd find me singing at church or in school choirs because that's where I felt at home and I felt like myself. My voice wasn't just heard, it was celebrated. My instructors and teachers challenged me and gave me a place for my voice to soar. But then life happened as the way it often does for good girls. I moved away from where I grew up, graduated high school, and in that transition, I made the classic good girl trade. I convinced myself that real singing, the kind that required me to show up, be seen, and take up space, was somehow selfish. I relegated my voice to the shower and my car. And yes, an occasional belt out of some songs at concerts, but these are all different, aren't they? They're safe, they're contained, and they don't ask anything of anyone, including myself. And for years, I just told myself that, well, this was being a practical adult, responsible. The story I fed myself was that serious singing was for other people, people with more time, with more talent, and those people who could justify taking up that kind of space. But I now know that every time I limited my voice to the shower, I was practicing my own limitation. It was my rehearsal for smallness. And then fate, or maybe my soul of getting tired of my own excuses, intervened for me. I was at an event and a local women's chorus was a vendor. And my daughter saw this and, well, bless her dangerous heart, she looked at me and said, "Mom, you should sign up for an audition." And there it was, the moment that I had to choose. I could choose the safe story about being too old or too out of practice or too whatever I was feeling in that moment. Or I could choose to bet on my voice that had been waiting patiently in exile. I auditioned, and the rest, well, it's my own revolution disguised at weekly rehearsals. I now show up to use my voice in ways that challenge me, that stretch me out of my comfort zones, require me to be fully present and fully authentically expressed. Rehearsals are my sacred time, not stolen time and not guilty time, but sacred time where I practice fully being myself. And our performances, those are not only my time to shine, not apologetically and not dimmed for anyone else's comfort, but a full out, unapologetic creative expression. This is what reclaiming creativity actually looks like. It's not about discovering a hidden talent. It's about recovering the parts of yourself that you have convinced were somehow too much, too selfish, or too impractical to honor. Let's talk about what's really stopping you from using your own creativity. Because I guarantee you, every creative block that you have is actually good girl conditioning in disguise. There is the too late trap. I should have started when I was younger. Everyone else has a head start. Or I've missed my window of opportunity. Your life experience isn't your creative disadvantage. I see it as a creative advantage. You have decades of stories, wisdom, perspective, and a voice that younger women don't have. They haven't earned it. Your late start is actually your authentic start. There is the productivity prison. I don't have time for this, or I should be doing something useful with my time, or creativity is a luxury that I can't afford. Your own creativity doesn't owe anyone productivity. It doesn't need to make money, solve problems, or serve others. It exists because you exist, and that's enough. There is permission paralysis. I don't have the training, or I need to take a class first, or I should learn the right way. You don't need credentials to create. You don't need permission from institutions, teachers, or experts. Your authentic expression is already valid. There is talent tyranny that may speak to you like I'm not naturally gifted, or I don't have the talent for this, or some people are just born creative. Talent is often code for started young and had support. What you call lack of talent might actually be a lack of permission for you to be bad at something while you learn. The family guilt complex. I should be spending time with my family. It's selfish to focus on myself. Or my kids or my family just need me. Your creative starvation serves no one. When you model a creative fulfillment, you give your family permission to pursue their own authentic expressions. Your creativity isn't taking away from them, it's showing them what's possible. The real life roadblocks. I have real responsibilities, or this is just a hobby, or I need to be practical. Creativity is real life. Everything else, the bills, the schedules, the obligations, that's just infrastructure. Your creative expression is what makes you human. Now that we've exposed the blocks for what they really are, let's talk about how to really get down to the nitty-gritty with your own dormant creativity. This isn't about being an artist. It's just about becoming authentically, dangerously yourself. Start by mapping your own creative wounds. Ask yourself questions like, when did you first learn that your voice or your art or your expression wasn't valuable? Whose voices do you hear when you're trying to create? Feel into anger, pain, rage. Feel all of the feelings about all of the years that you've told yourself that you weren't creative. These feelings are sacred information showing you exactly what was taken from you and what you are now ready to reclaim. Try angry art sessions. Create specifically to express what you're furious or angry about. Write permission rants about everything that you were told that you couldn't do. And if it helps, you can literally or symbolically burn those old beliefs about your creative worth. Ask yourself what you love to create before someone told you it wasn't good enough. Or think about something you loved to do when you were younger that suddenly someone said you're too old to be doing that. Connect with that creative child who was silenced. Let your hands remember what they love to do. And this may feel like nostalgia, but it's actually your inner authentic blueprint just coming to the surface. I'm a big fan of permission-based practices, which I've talked about many times. So give yourself daily permission slips like, today I give myself permission to make something terrible. Create things that serve absolutely no one but you. Steal time from productivity just for pure creative expression. Start where it feels emotionally safe to express. Let your body lead before your mind judges. And when you're in doubt or not sure, just take some deep breaths. These can help you lean into what your creative impulses may look like. You can try morning creative pages or stream of consciousness writing before the world makes demands on you. Wake up a half an hour earlier before you have to get the kids off to school or before you need to leave for work. Or you can end your day with evening creative dumps, letting whatever wants to come through just flow onto paper or canvas. 5-minute daily creative acts can help build your creative confidence. Make this time sacred and non-negotiable. Create without explaining or justifying to others. You may even want to find a community of creative rebels, of women who are supportive of dangerous creative choices. You may feel comfortable to share your ugly first drafts to normalize imperfection and authentic expression. Celebrating when women choose creativity over comfort can be a guidepost for you. And most importantly, create for an audience of one, you. Not everything needs to be shared or seen. You can build your own internal validation system by learning to trust your own creative instincts. Creativity can unlock a lot of things in life. And this particular episode isn't separate from anything else that I've discussed in other episodes. I feel creative recovery is intimately connected to every other form of authentic living that we've explored so far and that we will continue to talk about. I feel that your authentic creative expression can be a most dangerous form of authenticity because it can't be argued or explained away. When you create from your true self, you're making your authenticity visible and tangible. Remember previously we talked about excavating who you were before the good girl conditioning? Creativity is an excavation tool. When you create authentically, you're physically manifesting parts of yourself that have been buried under all of those shoulds. And creative shoulds are particularly insidious because they masquerade as practical wisdom. You should be realistic about creative careers, or you should wait until you have time, money, or training, or you just should create things that serve others. All of these shoulds are just good girl conditioning in disguised, fully designed to keep women from expressing their authentic voices, because authentic female expression is inherently dangerous to systems that require compliance. Society often tells women in midlife that their reinvention should be age appropriate, something like a watercolor class or a book club. But I feel authentic creative expression doesn't care about your age. It cares about what's true for you. This is about recovering the creative voice that's been silenced during the years that you were just learning to be good. And there is a pattern throughout these episodes about permission, a permission to disappoint people, breaking shoulds, requiring permission to be selfish. Reinvention requires permission to create something and want something different. And you just have to allow yourself to be bad at something and just do it anyways. All of these battles are in the same war, the war against good girl conditioning that teaches women that their authentic expression is somehow wrong, inappropriate, or not enough. And I see creativity as a gateway drug to revolution. Creativity is often where women first give themselves permission to really be selfish. It starts with, I want to write, paint, or dance for me, and then progresses into, I want to spend my time on what matters to me. It evolves into, I want to live my life according to my values, and culminates into, I choose myself over systems that require my compliance. Creativity and the recovery of it becomes the training ground for life recovery. Again, let me remind you that your creativity isn't missing, it's just been in hiding. You're not uncreative, or you're not the artistic type. We're all recovering creatives who have learned to suppress our authentic expressions to be good girls. It literally just went underground to survive conditioning. You don't need training, talent, or permission from anyone to find your own creative expressions in this world. Your creative genius is needed not because it's polished, but because it's yours. And that little voice in your head that is telling you that you're not creative, it's not your voice. It's coming from your internal critic that is benefiting from your silence. Creative practices aren't separate from life transformations because it is a life transformation. Every time you choose yourself, you're choosing your own creative expression, practicing foundational skills for every other area of freedom in life. When you give yourself permission to make terrible art, write messy first drafts, dance badly in your kitchen, or sing off key in your car, you're practicing choosing yourself over the fear of judgment. And this is the same muscle that you're going to use to change careers, set boundaries, leave toxic situations, or live authentically in any area of your life. Creative hunger is sacred information that we all should be listening to. It's not frivolous or selfish. It's your soul giving you directions to come home to yourself. Your creative desires are sacred information about who you were before you learned to be digestible. They're not nice to haves. They're essential data about your true authentic nature. When you reclaim your creative voice, you're not just making art. You're making yourself dangerous to the systems that need you small, silent, and compliant. This is using your own personal expression as a revolution. And this gives other women permission for them to also be authentic. I see creativity as freedom and how ending the good girl conditioning, one dangerous woman at a time. We weren't born to be consumers of other people's creativity or to copy other people's artistry. You were born to be a creator of your own authentic expression. And your voice and your art matters not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. And the world desperately needs our individual talents to be created to put into the world. So your voice, literal or metaphorical, is waiting for you to stop making it sing in the shower and start letting it soar where others can hear it. Not because you owe the world your gifts, but because you owe yourself the full expression of who you are. So here is your challenge for this week. It's designed to be small but mighty. I want you to give yourself permission, one micro permission to create badly. Choose something you used to love or something that you've always been curious about. Set a timer for just 15 minutes and create something terrible. Write a bad poem. Draw a wonky picture. Dance awkwardly to a song that you love in privacy. Sing off key. Make something that serves absolutely no one but you. Remember, the goal isn't to create something good. The goal here is practicing choosing your own authentic expression over fear of judgment. It's to practice being bad at something and doing it anyway. Practicing taking up creative space without apology. You don't need to show it to anyone. You don't need to post it on social media for the world to see. And you don't need to ask anyone for feedback. You're creating for your audience of one, and that's you and you alone. And notice what comes up for you. Are you feeling resistance? Is there a voice that's telling you you're wasting time or being silly? If it is, that's your good girl conditioning trying to pull you back into creative starvation. But I want you to create anyway. Because this is about you reclaiming your artistry. Creativity isn't a nice to have. It's sacred information we all must listen to. It's about who we were before we learned to be digestible. It's listening to our soul, telling us it's time to choose ourself over the comfort of others. Stop waiting for permission to be imperfect. Stop waiting for the right time, better skills, or the approval of others. Your creative voice is already perfect because it's yours. Remember, this isn't about you being an artist. It's about becoming dangerous to anything that needs you creatively starved and expressively silent. So until next episode, keep choosing yourself. Keep being dangerous. Remember, your voice, your creativity, and your authentic expression matters, not because they're perfect, but because all of them are uniquely, powerfully, and apologetically yours. I'll see you on the next episode of Midlife Moxie with Nicole Haight. Before you go, I want to make sure that you know how to stay connected to this work, because what we have talked about today, this is just the beginning. If you're sitting there thinking, holy shit, she just described my entire life, and you want to know exactly what patterns are running the show in your life, I've created something specifically for you. You can head on over to my website, www.nicolehaight.com, and take the assessment, which sacred pattern is running your midlife. It's a free diagnostic tool that will tell you exactly where you are in your own conditioning and what your next steps should be. There's no fluff, no generic advice. just precise information about your specific patterns. Because here's the thing, you can't interrupt what you can't see. And most women are trying to change their lives without understanding the deeper nervous system conditioning that is actually driving their choices. If you want to dive deeper into these conversations and connect with other women who are also done performing their way through life, you can join my private Facebook group. Link will be in the show notes. And it's where we have conversations, real, raw, unfiltered truth about women in midlife. And if you want to be on my VIP list for weekly doses of truth that maybe help keep you accountable to your own transformation, there is a link in the show notes, but there's also a link at my website, www.nicolehaight.com, where you can sign up to be on my email list. This isn't a typical newsletter filled with tips and inspiration, though I do include that from time to time. This is a newsletter where I share hard truths, insights, raw, unfiltered things that are just not socially acceptable on social media. And these awarenesses that you can take away from what I share can be a catalyst for change. So I invite you to sign up. And if you're ready to go even deeper, because you might be tired of all of this surface level work and you really want a whole system level transformation, everything you need to know about working with me is on my website, www.nicolehaight.com. I'm not a coach, and this isn't coaching, and it's not therapy, and it's sure as hell not spiritual bypassing. This is a resurrection of the nervous system. And this is for the woman who is ready to stop performing and start living. You can also follow me on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at I am Nicole Haight, where I share reminders about conditioning and women and midlife, confronting truths and desires that are just frankly not up for negotiation. So next week we will continue to have discussions that likely will make some of you squirm. It is what I'm best at. But if this episode shifted something for you, do me a favor and leave a review. Not because I need an ego boost, but because there are women out there who are Googling, why do I feel invisible in my own life at 2 a.m.? And your review might be what helps them find this podcast. Your review could also be the breadcrumb that leads another woman out of performance prison and into her own resurrection. So until next week, remember, you don't need permission to want what you want. You never did. That was just conditioning dressed up as consideration. You're a woman in midlife. You don't need permission. You just need to have desires and wants and the ability to go after all of them. So stop asking and start claiming.